The paparazzi team had been working tirelessly on their next big project, one that they hoped would deliver the ultimate scoop. Armed with high-tech drones capable of discreetly capturing footage from great heights, they had set their sights on none other than the White House. Rumors had been swirling around Washington for weeks about an important conversation taking place between Donald Trump and his protege, Caroline Leavitt. It wasn't just any ordinary meeting. Whispers in the halls of power suggested that the former president was offering advice, personal insights, and life lessons to the young political figure. For the paparazzi team, this was more than just another opportunity for a photo. This was a chance to capture a moment that would change everything. They knew how the media devoured sensational stories, and they were prepared to make headlines that would reverberate across the globe. They had their eyes set on a golden prize, a glimpse into one of the most powerful conversations behind the closed doors of one of the most famous buildings in the world. The drone was ready, carefully prepped for the mission. Its sleek design made it almost invisible to the naked eye, and its advanced camera systems were capable of zooming in from incredible distances while maintaining crystal-clear resolution. The paparazzi had become experts at this covert operation, taking advantage of technology to witness and record moments they otherwise could never access. With a quiet hum, the drone lifted off the ground, hovering into the air with perfect precision. The team watched from their control room, their eyes glued to the monitors, where the White House came into view. The familiar grandeur of the building, its iconic columns and manicured lawns, filled the screen. They had arrived. The drone soared toward the White House, expertly maneuvering past security perimeters with ease. The moment felt electric, as if the team were about to crack the story of the decade. They knew that whatever they uncovered here would dominate the media for days, maybe weeks. Their hearts raced with anticipation as they guided the drone closer to the windows of the building. This was no ordinary day. It was a moment that could redefine everything. As the drone edged closer to the iconic structure, they began to see movement inside the windows. There, standing in a room on the second floor, was none other than Donald Trump himself. His unmistakable figure, dressed in a sharp suit, stood tall as he conversed with Caroline Leavitt. The camera zoomed in for a closer look. Trump appeared to be in the middle of making a strong point, his finger pointed firmly in the air, as if emphasizing something crucial. Caroline, a young woman with blonde hair, stood attentively, her face serious yet respectful, listening intently to what Trump was saying. For the paparazzi team, this was it. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They couldn't help but assume the worst. The aggressive body language, the pointed finger, and the intensity of the exchange made it seem like a heated argument. The team exchanged glances, their eyes wide with excitement and disbelief. The narrative began to form in their minds. Trump, the former president, was engaged in a confrontation with his young political ally. Maybe she had crossed him, or perhaps she was challenging him on something important. They could already imagine the headlines: Donald Trump confronts Caroline Leavitt in heated exchange at the White House. It was the kind of story that would fuel gossip and controversy for days. They watched the scene unfold in real time, the drone capturing every detail. The tension was palpable in the air, even though they were miles away, safe in their control room. This was their big break. The footage they had was worth millions. It was an exclusive shot of two powerful figures in politics, and the drama unfolding before them was too perfect to ignore. As the drone continued to hover just outside the White House, the team couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to reveal something explosive, something that would make them famous. Little did they know they were about to make a massive mistake, but in that moment, they couldn't see the bigger picture. They were only focused on the sensationalism, the story they were about to write, the headlines they were about to see in print. The paparazzi team was on the edge of their seats. Their hands trembled as they watched the live feed from the drone's camera, the crisp, high-definition footage capturing every minute detail with astounding clarity. As the drone hovered outside the White House, it became clear that this was the moment they had all been waiting for. The figures of Donald Trump and Caroline Leavitt filled the screen, their every movement under the watchful eyes of the paparazzi team. They could hardly believe what they were seeing. Trump was standing with his back to the window, his posture rigid, and his finger pointed directly at Caroline, who stood across from him, listening intently. The way he gestured, the sharpness in his movements, gave the unmistakable impression of a confrontation. The tension was palpable in the air, even from the outside looking in. His expression was intense, as though he was delivering a lesson, perhaps reprimanding her for something. Caroline, on the other hand, seemed calm and composed, but there was an undeniable sense of unease in her body language. Her eyes were fixed on him, absorbing every word, yet there was an air of submission, as if she were in the middle of some sort of verbal battle. The team began to murmur among themselves, caught up in the excitement. "This is it," one of them said, barely able to contain their enthusiasm. "This is exactly what we've been waiting for." They could already see the story taking shape in their minds. This wasn't just an ordinary conversation. It was a confrontation between two powerful figures. The tension, the raised finger, it all screamed drama. The kind of drama that would sell millions of newspapers, get millions of views on social media, and spark debates across television screens worldwide. The drone's camera zoomed in further, capturing every detail of Trump's face. His brow furrowed in concentration, his lips pursed as though he was making a crucial point. Caroline was still standing there absorbing the lecture. To the paparazzi team, it was a powerful image. The former president, unyielding and firm, pointing his finger at his young protege. Was she in trouble? Had she failed him in some way? The questions raced through their minds, but one thing was for sure. This was going to be explosive. They couldn't help but be thrilled by the rawness of the moment. They felt like they had caught a rare glimpse into a private world that most could only imagine. The White House, as symbol of power and authority, had just provided them with a scene of conflict that would likely grab the attention of the entire nation. It felt like the perfect storm of media frenzy was about to unfold. The excitement mounted as they began preparing the story. "We need to get this out fast," one of the paparazzi said, already drafting a headline in his mind. "Trump confronts Leavitt in shocking White House showdown." It was the kind of sensational headline that would immediately capture attention, stir up curiosity, and get people talking. They could already picture the headlines, the social media buzz, the television coverage. They could almost hear the clickbait-style voices narrating the drama in real time. The footage kept rolling, and the team became more and more convinced that they were witnessing a monumental moment. They didn't question the context. After all, they were outsiders, only seeing the surface level. Trump's finger was raised, and Caroline's body language suggested she was being reprimanded. The drama was unfolding right in front of them, and it seemed too good to be true. But in the frenzy of excitement and anticipation, they missed something crucial, something that would soon turn their world upside down. They failed to realize that the story they had crafted in their minds wasn't the truth. The images they captured, the audio they recorded, were only part of the equation. The bigger picture was one they hadn't yet seen, but for now they were too deep in the excitement to stop. They were already imagining the glory of their scoop, the accolades, the praise, the sense of victory that came with breaking such a huge story. This was going to be their career-defining moment. No one else had captured something like this. No one else had access to this kind of private moment inside the White House. As the team prepared to release the footage, they didn't know that this moment, this sensation they were about to create, was built on a foundation of misunderstanding. They were on the cusp of creating a narrative that would soon crumble, but for now, they were lost in the intoxicating power of the image they had captured, ready to change the course of their careers forever. As the drone hovered in place, its motors quietly humming, the paparazzi team's anticipation reached a fever pitch. The footage they had just captured was nothing short of extraordinary, an image of power, tension, and what they believed to be a confrontation between two key political figures. But as the drone slowly edged closer to the White House window, something unexpected happened. The clarity of the audio began to reveal more than they could have ever anticipated. The camera was already zoomed in, showing Trump's stern face as he pointed his finger toward Caroline Leavitt. The scene appeared charged with intensity, as if Trump was laying down the law. Caroline's posture was still calm, but there was a quiet tension around her. She stood motionless, her attention locked on him. To the paparazzi team, the situation was so perfectly poised for a dramatic narrative that it felt surreal. Every second they watched only confirmed their assumptions. This was a moment of confrontation, and they had the footage to prove it. But as the drone crept closer to the window, the mics picked up the faintest whisper of sound, just enough to make out what was actually being said. The team members leaned in closer to the monitors, their eyes narrowing, eager to catch every word. They expected to hear a fiery exchange, a verbal clash between two powerful individuals. But what they heard was something far from what they had imagined. The microphone picked up Trump's voice clearly now, though still faint through the drone's subtle hum. "You've got to stay focused, Caroline," he said, his voice calm, steady, and laced with authority, but not anger. "Life's going to throw all sorts of obstacles your way, but you can't let those obstacles define you. You learn from them. That's how you grow. That's how you move forward." The words didn't match the scene the paparazzi had built up in their heads. Trump wasn't yelling. He wasn't scolding. He wasn't in a heated argument. Instead, he was imparting wisdom, advice even. He was speaking to Caroline like a mentor, guiding her through the challenges she might face in her career and in life. It was almost as though he was trying to prepare her for the inevitable storms that come with power, responsibility, and public scrutiny. Caroline's response was soft but respectful. "I understand, Mr. Trump," she said, her voice steady, despite the situation's emotional charge. "I've been learning a lot. Sometimes it's hard to see the bigger picture, but I'm trying to get better at it." As the drone hovered there, recording the conversation in real time, the paparazzi team began to realize the full scope of what was happening. The drama they had imagined, Trump in a fit of rage, pointing his finger in reprimand, was nothing more than a fabrication, a figment of their overactive imaginations. What they were witnessing was a calm, powerful exchange between two individuals in a position of influence, with Trump offering Caroline guidance in the same way a mentor would advise a protege. There was no animosity in the air, no anger, no confrontation. It was a conversation filled with life lessons and advice for someone at the start of their political career. The team sat in stunned silence. The excitement they had felt just moments ago began to ebb away, replaced by a sense of unease. What had they done? What had they almost done? They had assumed the worst, based on a fleeting moment that was far from what it appeared to be. They had seen a man pointing his finger, and in their rush to sensationalize the story, they had misinterpreted it completely. In that instant, they realized how easily things could be twisted, how quickly assumptions could lead to catastrophic misjudgments. The drone continued to hover as the conversation between Trump and Caroline unfolded. Trump's voice was steady, his words filled with experience. "You have to understand," he continued, "people will challenge you, but it's how you handle those challenges that defines your character. Keep your head up and never lose sight of who you are and what you stand for." Caroline nodded, her face showing a mix of gratitude and contemplation. "Thank you, Mr. Trump," she replied. "I'm taking it all to heart." The paparazzi team, still glued to their monitors, felt the weight of the situation hit them. This wasn't the explosive story they had hoped for. It wasn't the drama they had imagined. Instead, it was a quiet, powerful moment of mentorship, a moment of personal growth that was far more valuable than anything they could have expected. They had caught a glimpse of something real, something genuine, but it wasn't the story they had intended to tell. The truth, it seemed, was far more subtle than the sensationalized narrative they had been preparing to launch. And as the drone pulled back, the team knew they had a choice to make. Would they still spin the narrative they had built in their heads, or would they take the harder, more responsible path and tell the truth about what they had witnessed? As they sat there, unsure of what to do, the true impact of the moment began to sink in. It wasn't just the content of the conversation that had stunned them. It was the realization that they had almost fallen victim to their own biases, their own desire to create a scandal. They had almost made the mistake of reporting a lie, and in that instant, they understood the weight of their responsibility. The truth, no matter how mundane it might seem, was always more important than the drama. The minutes following the audio revelation were filled with a heavy, suffocating silence. The paparazzi team sat motionless in front of their monitors, staring at the live feed from the drone, the weight of the situation slowly dawning on them. What had begun as a moment of triumph, an opportunity to capture a story so explosive that it could dominate news cycles, had quickly transformed into something far more complex. What they thought was an intense confrontation, the kind of juicy drama that could bring them fame and fortune, had turned out to be something much more mundane, but equally important, a simple moment of mentorship. For the first time in years, the team found themselves questioning their instincts. They had been so eager to capture a scandal, to create a narrative that would grab attention, that they had ignored the most basic element of journalism, the truth. They had let their assumptions lead them, their desire for a big story clouding their judgment. And now as they sat there, listening to the soft voices of Donald Trump and Caroline Leavitt exchanging words of wisdom, they realized they had been on the brink of making a grave mistake. The footage was crystal clear. There was no shouting, no drama, no confrontation. Trump's words, though stern at times, were not filled with anger. They were words of guidance. He wasn't scolding Caroline. He was teaching her, offering life lessons, helping her understand the harsh realities of power, responsibility, and public scrutiny. The situation they had initially perceived as a heated argument was actually a private moment of personal growth for Caroline, an opportunity to learn from one of the most powerful figures in modern politics. The realization hit the paparazzi team hard. They had been so focused on sensationalizing the scene that they hadn't even taken a moment to truly listen to what was happening. The finger pointing, the stern expression, those were simply part of the larger picture. But they weren't the story. The story was the conversation itself, and it was one that wasn't meant to be twisted for entertainment value. The story wasn't one of conflict, it was one of personal development, mentorship, and the transfer of knowledge from one influential figure to another. The team stared at the screen, torn between two paths. They had the footage. They had the drama. They could easily spin the story into something controversial, something that would stir up headlines and generate clicks. But they also had something else, the truth. And the truth was far more valuable than anything they could create from thin air. One of the team members, the most experienced of them all, was the first to speak up. "We can't do this," he said quietly, his voice laced with concern. "If we go with the story we've built in our heads, it's going to destroy everything. We'll be lying to the world." The words hung in the air, heavy with the realization that they had the power to shape the narrative, but they also had the responsibility to tell the truth. Another team member hesitated, still tempted by the allure of a sensational story. "But think of the exposure," they said. "This could be huge. The public loves drama, especially when it involves someone like Trump. This is a story that will blow up." "But at what cost?" the first team member countered. "We'll be perpetuating a lie. We'll be manipulating people's perception of what really happened. This isn't what journalism is about. It's about truth, not fiction." The team fell into another silence, the weight of their decision pressing down on them. They had been on the verge of making one of the biggest mistakes of their careers, but now they had a choice to go down the path of sensationalism and risk destroying their credibility, or to tell the truth, even if it meant losing out on the quick fame and fortune that came with a viral story. Slowly, one by one, the team members began to nod in agreement. The allure of scandal faded in the face of their moral dilemma. They couldn't bring themselves to be part of something so misleading, something that could harm the reputation of both Trump and Caroline, not to mention the integrity of their profession. The drone, still hovering outside the White House, captured the last moments of the conversation between Trump and Caroline. The pair was laughing now, sharing a lighter moment, with Caroline thanking Trump for his advice. The scene, once thought to be a tense standoff, was actually a warm exchange, a moment of connection between two people who understood the importance of guiding the next generation. The paparazzi team made their decision. They would release the footage, but they would tell the real story, the truth about what they had witnessed, about the lessons Trump had shared with Caroline, and the genuine connection between them. It wasn't the headline-grabbing drama they had originally hoped for, but it was something far more valuable: honesty. As the team began to prepare the release of the footage, they felt a sense of relief. They had made the right choice, even though it wasn't the easy one. They had faced the temptation of sensationalism and had chosen to stand by the truth. In a world that often values scandal over substance, they had decided to go against the grain. The media would soon know the truth. And while it might not be the viral sensation they had originally imagined, the paparazzi team knew that they had done the right thing. The story of mentorship, personal growth, and the power of words would resonate far more than any fabricated drama ever could. And in the end, that was a story worth telling. The footage was out. The drone's lens, which had once captured what the paparazzi team thought would be the biggest scandal of their careers, had instead revealed a much more profound truth. As the team prepared to release the corrected story, they felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. They knew that telling the truth, though not as dramatic as the sensationalized version they had originally planned, was the right path. The public reaction, as expected, was mixed. Some were intrigued by the authentic narrative of mentorship, while others were disappointed that the drama they had hoped for wasn't there. But one thing was certain: the truth had found its way to the masses. No longer was the story of Trump and Caroline's private moment one of confrontation. It had become a story about guidance, leadership, and the power of personal growth in the world of politics. In the days that followed, the story gained traction, not because it was scandalous, but because it was real. People began to appreciate the rarity of such moments, particularly in the political sphere, where authenticity is often hard to come by. The media world, forever hungry for drama, was forced to confront the idea that sometimes the truth is just as compelling as the fiction they chase. For the paparazzi team, the aftermath of their decision was a mix of relief and satisfaction. They had made the right choice, even though it wasn't the easy one. They understood now that as journalists, their duty wasn't just to capture images or videos. It was to tell stories that reflected the truth, no matter how difficult it might be to find. They had come face to face with the temptation to sensationalize, but in the end, they chose integrity over profit, substance over shock value. Now, as the story circulated through news outlets and social media, they found themselves at the crossroads of their careers. Had they made the right decision? Would the public continue to engage with the story? Time would tell. But in the meantime, the team felt proud of the work they had done. They had resisted the pressure to fabricate and instead had created a narrative that respected both the people involved and their profession. But what did you think about the story? Did the truth surprise you, or were you expecting a dramatic confrontation? Were you disappointed that the scandal wasn't what it seemed? Or do you believe that moments of mentorship like this are more important than the latest headline-grabbing gossip? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share your perspective. Was it refreshing to see a story about personal growth and wisdom rather than sensationalism? Do you think the media should focus more on authenticity, even if it means less drama? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the truth behind the story, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more exclusive behind-the-scenes content like this. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Hit the notification bell to stay updated, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.